He's the UFC Hall of Famer on the line. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dan the Beast Severn. Dan, thanks for joining us. How you doing today, man?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm having another incredible day. I've been on this agenda of high motivation, getting stuff done, and it's working.
It's good to be the Beast, am I right?
Well, I'll tell you what, most of the time when the people, ask me how things going, I just simply say, I'm having another kick-ass day. What number would you like?
There you go. I like that. That should be on your gravestone later. That's a good line. Dan, talk to me about.
You might be there one day.
Dan, talk to me about the difference between the UFC now compared to when you first started, because there's a difference there. Am I right? A big difference.
No, there's this huge difference. Your listeners, they're used to seeing this product called mixed martial arts. Well, mixed martial arts has approximately 37 rules. Part of those rules is there are weight classes. There are time periods known as rounds. You wear gloves, and you fight one opponent in a given evening. Back in the NHB, otherwise known as No Holds Barred era, there were only two rules that the athletes had to abide by. That being, do not bite your opponent, do not stick fingers in their eye socket, no eye gouging.
Wow.
End of the rules.
Yeah.
I mean, you imagine what end of the rules. Anything that your imagination can come up with, you were good to go. There were no weight classes. The biggest weight difference was, I think, just over 400 pounds, a 616-pound sumo by the name of Manny Arbro, who was already passed, went up against Keith Hackney, and I think Keith was either just at 200 or just under 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And then bare-knuckled, no gloves, no time limits, and it had the 8-man tournament. The same 2-hour pay-per-view that still runs today, where you fight one opponent, you had to face and defeat 3 opponents. And, by the way, you are talking to the only Triple Crown champion from the UFC's No Holds Barred era. And since it's against the law to do now, I guess I'm in a category all by myself.
You also had a stint in the world a little bit different of professional wrestling. It wasn't long-lived, was it? When you were in the WWF, now WWE, of course, at the time, it was the Attitude Era. You were there. You were, I believe, managed by Mr. James E. Cornette. Am I right?
Correctamundo. But you have to kind of go back a little bit more time. My first profession that I ever started in, as of the 1992 Olympics, was professional wrestling. Most people don't understand that. They actually thought I jumped into the cage fighting stuff first and then switched over. I go, contraire. No, I started in professional wrestling as of the 92 Olympics. A new rule came down from the United States Olympic Committee that allowed athletes to be both amateur and professional simultaneously, as long as you are not involved in a high school athletic association program or a collegiate program, because you'll still be governed by NCAA rules or the high school athletic association rules. So I was well past my collegiate eligibility, so I could have my cake and eat it too.
And when you left the WWE, is this true that they wanted you to be the Undertaker's disciple? Is that a fact that they wanted to put the letter 666 on your forehead? Is that true?
Yes, it is.
And you said no. Why?
I was being team because disciple of a professional wrestler is you go full circle. If you were a good guy, otherwise known as a babyface, eventually they turn you into a bad guy, otherwise known as a heel, and all the way back again. So I was considered a babyface, a good guy, but just a no-nonsense kind of good guy. I didn't cut any goofy promos. I didn't wear any goofy outfits. I basically wore the same stuff that I wore in the Ultimate Fighting Championships. And, the company actually used me really well in the beginning, because actually even in the very beginning, I was doing matches with a suit and tie on.
Yeah.
And then And then the creative team comes up and they're like, well, now we got this idea of putting 666 across your forehead, making you the Undertaker's disciple. And I put my hands up like a T, and I made the little whistle noise of, guys, not going to happen. I live in small town USA. I do not want any repercussions to my family, nor to my businesses, nor to myself.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, Dan. Did the Undertaker, was he offended by that at all?
Well, no, I don't even know if he was even aware of this idea that creative was kicking around.
Yeah. Who came up with that idea, by the way? It wasn't Vince Russo, was it?
No. When I say creative, I don't know if it was one individual, a couple different people, if they were brainstorming, and I have not a clue as to who came up with the idea. All I know is I pitched this idea by a couple of the creative members.
And my last question about the professional wrestling world. This show is recorded, even though we're called Mr. Hollywood, we record out here in Canada. One of the wrestlers that we loved here is the late Owen Hart, who you had your fair share of fights with back then in the WWF at the time. Give us your take on Owen as a man, not the wrestler, but as a man.
In the beginning, I had watched some of Owen's matches in the past because I actually watched professional wrestling periodically. I just didn't watch a lot of TV in general. But as I'm with the company, getting to know him more and more. I mean, you can see he was a jokester. He liked playing pranks. Like the blue blazer gimmick. When he put on that costume, it was like if he reverted back to being a little kid, he just had that sneaky little I'm about to go be the blue blazer. They could do all these diabolical type of things. He really enjoyed that character a great deal. And as I got to know him, doing matches, he opened up to me to say that, Dan, he goes, you'll never remember me. He goes, but when you used to come up into Canada to wrestle, he says, I've been to the Canadian Cup a couple different times when you would come up representing the United States team, and I watched you wrestle and stuff like that. And I thought, well, that was pretty cool. Yeah. But then also being a part of the Ken Shamrock versus Owen Hart in the Dungeons match. So I'm the special guest referee. So to go to the Hart residence and sit upstairs in the living room for basically what was about probably 3 hours or more while the WWF film crew, they're setting up lights, they're setting up sound, they're just trying to put that stuff all together. And I sit up in the living room there with Stu Hart, listening to him tell stories and stuff like this. And then he was asking me a question here or there on the days I just respectfully answered his questions and stuff like that. And about a week later, Owen actually came up to me and he handed me one of his Owen Hart T-shirts. He goes, my dad wants you to have this. He signed it for you. And I thought, he said, you made a good impression about my dad. And I said, well, I enjoyed just sitting there listening to your dad tell stories and stuff like that. So that was kind of a cool little memento,
That was very cool because you're kind of like an old school guy. Now, Dan, before we go, you mentioned the name. I want to bring this up. You guys fought twice, I believe. You won one, he won one. You guys were supposed to fight again. It didn't happen. What is going on with Mr. Ken Shamrock?
Well, let me ask you first this there, Mr. Hollywood. How much time do I have to answer that question?
Dan, I'm going to give you... You got the floor. You got the floor, my friend.
Well, it's nothing that I can really say in a matter of a mere couple seconds or something like this. If you condense it all down, Ken Shamrock basically misled a company. Again, I'm being kind with that word misled. I don't know if he actually ever intended on actually competing against me or not. He did sign a LOI, letter of intent. He did pay monetary amount as down payment. He knew the actual date of the event, and a lot of people don't even realize this, but the original date of this UR Network show was to take place on Sunday, February 21st. When Ken, he kept putting out some different tweets there that he's got a big announcement coming up. Finally, when he makes an announcement, he talks about his match with Hoist Gracie in Bellator that is going to take place on Friday, February 19th. So, first off, I'm shocked that when he's making this announcement, I'm assuming he's about to make our announcement. So I call the company, UR Network, to say, what's up with this? And they're like, they didn't know what was up with this, and they contacted Ken, and I was told from UR Network that Ken said, no problem, just push the show back 1 week. I'll fight Hoist, on the 19th, and then I'll fight Dan again on the Sunday, the 28th.
So Ken Shamrock was going to fight Hoist Gracie, and then he was going to fight you right after, like a week after.
Right. That's what he told the company, and the company calls me up and said, well, do you have a problem with that, Dan? I go, well, me personally, no, I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I go, but you as a company, now, you realize, when I keep defending for the sake of the UR Network, they're not a mixed martial arts company. They're an internet entertainment network that they just held a number of events to draw attention to their network. So there's a lot that they did not know about mixed martial arts. So when they said, do I have a problem with that? I go, no, I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I go, but you and your company should be made aware of this. If he was to get any kind of an injury, it'll be a minimum of a 30-day suspension. Minimum. So I would not back up just a week. I would move it back by a month. And that's when it ended up getting the new date of that March 20th. But I'll just say that was the first hurdle to be going through, or to be the first fiasco, or otherwise known as the sham. It goes from that to his match that with Hoist, and the fact that he loses and it's declared a TKO, and not only on top of the TKO, he calls the UR Network up basically less than 10 days before the show, and he finally lets them know that he is hurt. His match took place on the 19th, and he doesn't let the company know for almost another 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Less than 10 days before the show, he finally, and again, I don't even know if it was him or if he had his manager call in, just let him know that Ken's got a boo-boo, and he can't do it.
Yeah.
But what came out shortly after that was the sheer fact that Kimbo Slice and Ken also tested positive for controlled substances.
There you go.
Which was not Ken's first time doing that. It was the second time. So I know first offense, I'm not sure how long that is, but I simply know that if it's a second offense, you're gonna have to go stand in the corner a little bit longer for being naughty like that. Extra naughty. So I look at, he has, because I was, to say I was pissed is an understatement. I took 5 months out of my life, and I prepared properly. And then have that, the rug jerked out from my feet. Oh, pissed is an understatement. So I'm being rather livid. I put out a press release on that Thursday, because I simply knew that the deadline. Fast forward just a little bit more. There was a quick search to try to find out anyone else that fit the bill. But I told your network, I said, I only came out of retirement. One more time. I had already retired from mixed martial arts as of January 2013. But I retired with a clause. I simply said, I'm retiring now. But if one of these three guys, rated in a row, if they Mark Coleman, Ken Shamrock, or Horace Gracie was a step up to the plate, I would seriously think about coming back out. I said like that because if they waited a decade and now I'm weighing 500 pounds, I kind of doubt if I would have come out of retirement.
Yeah.
But the sheer fact that there had been, a little bit of time had passed by, I'm still actively teaching classes. I'm still actively doing things inside my training facility, stuff like this. So I felt like, I would not want to go against one of the young bucks today, but to go against another one of roughly my same vintage. No one is actually my vintage, but someone that is close in that same category, I'm okay with. So, like I said, just pissed about the whole deal, just especially the way it went down, the shady way that it went down, and each time, my whole aspect of that was, I probably won't say nothing, but each time that he wants to open his mouth and try to defend himself, I'm going to help him put his foot right back into it.
Dan...
Because he was not a man of his word. He was not a man of integrity. He keeps being the self-proclaimed, world's most dangerous man, but also he's this self-proclaimed, a born-again Christian, work with kids, stuff like this. But what does your legacy say about you? The sheer fact that, let's just say, okay, you tested positive twice for controlled substances. What does that say?
Yeah.
I mean, I would actually have more respect for him if he would simply say, kids, do as I say and not as I did. But the sheer fact that he tries to deny, you can actually see different interviews out on YouTube where he'll deny ever uses steroids. Then they'll be like, he'll deny that he never used steroids while undergoing competition, and it just feels like one can't just get your story straight and stick by it. You're messing up your own story right now, and it becomes more and more a spiral of lies.
Dan,
I can look at myself in the mirror and know that I have achieved all my success on my own ability. Take this one step further. Out of the top three, the first three guys ever inducted into the UFC, only one of them has never tested positive for controlled substances. And you're speaking to him.
Yeah. Dan, will Dan Severn fight Ken Shamrock? Is that ever going to happen again, or did he blow it? Is it over?
Why are you even asking me this question? Why don't you guys get him on the phone and first ask him why, or what happened, or what do you have to say if Dan says this or Dan says that? Because I can't like to see him because there are no excuses. There's none. For me to answer you that question, only way I would fight him is there a way that you can guarantee me that he's going to show up?
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste any more of my time waiting for him. I wasted 5 months of my life. I lost income for 5 months because for 5 months I didn't go out and do anything else. I'm not that young guy. I'm not close to being a young guy anymore. I should know that if I was going to come out of retirement, and this is going to be the last time people ever see Dan Severn, well, by God, they're going to see a Dan Severn they never thought they'd ever see again. My slowest day, my lightest day, which was on a Sunday, I did 2 workouts in. The rest of the week, I would do 3-a-day workouts, and every third day, I did a 4-a-day workout. My days were consumed with traveling, training, and I need some rest time in between. Resting and then putting nutrition back in my body. I was probably just over 270 pounds when I started. Knowing that, okay, he announcement. Yeah, he's fighting Hoist. Well, Hoist, I haven't seen him in a long time. I have no idea what's his weight like, but he was always pretty light. I'm sure Ken's going to be pretty lean in order for that match to take place because the no-holds-barred era is gone. You don't have these wide weight class regimes. There's weight classes or a catch weight that's going to be reasonable. So I kept thinking, I better get my little butterball down here because if Ken is under 205, for example, and I come in at 275, he'll be crying he's too big, or the athletic commission might just be saying that's too much of a gap.
Yeah.
So between my working out stuff like this, even when the UR network said, we can't do nothing more, we tried, take care of it, he did pass his medical EKG off the charts. I'm off the show, and I told about nothing else. I go, the hell I won't. I go, I plan on being at Wayne's. I go, I'm going to strip down. I'm going to step on the scales because I busted my ass. And when I stepped on that scales, man, I weighed 236 pounds. I haven't seen 236 pounds since 1996. People were, I got the biggest pop stand on the scales.
Yeah.
Because they just couldn't believe, like, look, like, I had buddies there that, like, dude, you're half the man you used to be.
Dan Severn, everybody. Woo!
Well, thanks for having me, man. And I'll tell you what, check in with me in another 3 or 4 months down the road, and who knows what the beast will be up to.